The spoon never made it to my mouth. I was mid-bite, caramel cheesecake wobbling at the tip, when she leaned in across the table, past the flickering reunion candles, the murmurs of former classmates, and the jazz cover of Teenage Dream, and whispered, "You'll never even come close to my ex's level." It wasn't a joke. It wasn't even a whisper, actually. Half the table heard her. One guy choked on his wine. Another girl blinked twice and looked away like she wasn't supposed to witness that. I just lowered the spoon back to the plate, took a breath, looked at her, and kept eating. Not because I wasn't hurt. I was. But because if I opened my mouth, I was going to cry. And no way was I giving her that. Noelle, my wife, still my wife, at that point, had a smile on her face like she'd just checked mate. Like she'd scored the winning goal in a game I didn't even know we were playing. I didn't react. Didn't defend myself. I nodded like she'd told me the sky was blue. That was her weapon of choice. Humiliation disguised as honesty. But here's where it gets weird. After she said it, she kept glancing at her phone, like she was waiting for something. Or someone. That made me suspicious. But I didn't ask. An hour later, I slipped out early. No dramatic exit. No slamming doors. I just left the fake laughing alumni and their overpriced cocktails behind and walked out into the freezing November night. And I turned off my phone. That was probably the smartest thing I've ever done. Because when I woke up the next morning and finally turned it back on, 356 missed calls. And not just from her. Her mom. Her boss. Her ex. An unknown number marked ICU. I didn't even get to unlock the screen before another call came through. This one from a number I recognized. Her friend Meredith. I answered. "Emery. Oh God, where are you? She's been trying to find you all night. Something happened. Something really bad." I didn't speak. Because deep down, I already knew. This was the fallout. And it hadn't even started yet. I didn't call her back. I didn't call anyone back, actually. I just stared at the call log, thumb hovering over the view all button, while my mind ran a mile a minute. I had 356 missed calls and over 90 text messages waiting to detonate like emotional landmines. But somehow, that number didn't scare me as much as the silence between the calls. You'd think a man would panic in my position, drive to the hospital, burst through the doors, demand to see his wife. But not me. Not after what she said at that table. Not after the weeks of gaslighting that led up to it. And definitely not after the way she kept glancing at the entrance to the ballroom like she expected her ex to show up and rescue her from me. So instead of running to her, I opened the front door of our apartment, stepped outside, and sat down on the cold concrete stairwell. The morning air was sharp, the kind that stung your nose and made you feel alive in the worst way. I needed that sting. I needed to feel something other than numb. I finally opened Meredith's text. She didn't come home. No one's seen her since she left the reunion. Her car was found outside the old train station. "Call me ASAP." She left a voicemail. "It's bad." I didn't even finish reading it before another message came through. This one was from her sister. "Where are you? Did you two fight? The cops are asking questions. Please just call someone. Anything helps right now." That's when I realized this wasn't just about hurt feelings or a petty insult anymore. Something had gone terribly wrong. But here's the thing. I knew Noelle better than anyone. I knew how she operated. She was a master manipulator, a world-class guilt tripper, and if she wanted attention, she knew how to orchestrate a scene. But this wasn't her usual performance. Because Noelle never disappeared. She never left her car somewhere overnight. She did not come home. She was the queen of control, of image, reputation, schedule. Even the way she posted on Instagram was curated to the hour. So either she was trying to scare me, or something real had happened. But here's the twisted part. I still couldn't shake what she said the night before. Even while everyone else was panicking, wondering if she was okay, if she'd been hurt, all I could hear on repeat was, "You'll never even come close to my ex's level." It echoed every time I blinked. Every time someone messaged me with panic in their words. It felt like my punishment. Like karma showed up with a personal delivery. She broke me publicly, so now I was supposed to break for her privately. I stood up, went back inside, still didn't call anyone. Instead, I went to her side of the closet, the one she obsessively kept organized by color, and I started pulling clothes off hangers. Not because I was leaving her. Not yet. But because something inside me said, whatever happened last night, it changed everything. And I wasn't going to sit around waiting to be the villain in whatever narrative she was about to spin. Not this time. Not again. I told myself I wasn't going to listen to it. That no matter what her voicemail said, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing I cared enough to press play. But after pacing around the apartment like a caged animal for over an hour, my curiosity mutated into something worse, a need. Not a need to forgive, or even to understand, just a need to know. So I grabbed my phone, scrolled to the audio message Meredith had forwarded to me, and without thinking, I hit play. Her voice came through immediately, uneven and clipped, like she was out of breath. Emery, listen to me. Please. I shouldn't have said what I said. I was drunk, okay? I was trying to make you mad, not humiliate you. It came out wrong. It always comes out wrong with you, and I don't know why. Then a pause. A shuffle. Like she was in the car, maybe pulling over. I didn't come home because I needed space. I drove around for a while. I was going to stay at Meredith's, but no. Screw that. I'm being honest now. Another pause. A sniffle. She was crying, but not dramatically. It was the kind of soft, internal crying you don't do for sympathy, the kind that leaks out against your will. I saw him. Colton. After you left. He asked if I wanted to catch up. We sat in his car for a bit. That's all. I swear that's all. My stomach clenched. He kissed me. I didn't ask him to, Emery. I swear. I pulled away. I told him I was married. That I loved my husband. I just wanted to feel like someone still saw me. And then, what made my blood turn cold? He got weird after that. Like possessive. I told him I was going to leave, and he said, Noelle, don't make me regret this again. What does that even mean? Why would he say that? I'm probably overthinking it. I'm so tired. And then the message cut off. Just like that. No goodbye? No, I'll be home soon. Just the sound of her breathing, and then silence. My hand was trembling. I replayed it again. Then a third time. And every time, I caught something new. The panic in her voice, the anxiety when she mentioned him, and especially that line. Don't make me regret this again. What the hell did that mean? I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, replaying every interaction I'd seen between Noelle and Colton at the reunion. That weird, 8-second hug. The way he ignored me. The smirk when she humiliated me. It wasn't playful, it was intentional. Like he knew something I didn't. And now she was missing? I didn't know if she was lying or in real danger. But then another text came through. Blocked number. You wanted to feel big, huh? Bet you feel real big now. Check the passenger seat. I bolted upright. My heart started pounding like I'd just been dropped in the middle of a war zone. What did that mean? I didn't have her car. I hadn't seen it. Meredith's text said it had been found parked at the old train station. I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and drove like a man possessed. The sun had just begun to rise, gray, wet light creeping through the clouds. The train station had been closed for years, replaced by a newer one uptown, but people still used its lot to cut deals, hook up, or disappear. Her car was there, right where they said. I pulled up beside it. The driver's door was shut, the windows fogged. But when I looked through the passenger side window, my breath left my body. Inside was her necklace, the one I bought her 3 years ago for our anniversary, snapped in half, one side stained dark red. A single, smudged fingerprint streaked across the leather seat beside it. And taped to the dashboard? A Polaroid. Of Noelle. Asleep. Or unconscious. Or worse. I backed away slowly, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my teeth. My mind screamed at me to call someone. The cops, Meredith, anyone. But I stood there frozen, phone heavy in my pocket, mouth dry as ash. Because the truth hit me harder than the wind biting through my jacket. This wasn't just a disappearance. This was a message. And it was meant for me. I couldn't move. The Polaroid stuck to the dash held me in place like gravity. There was something so eerily intimate about it. Not digital, not filtered. Raw, real, grainy. The kind of thing you'd expect to see in a true crime documentary 10 years after the fact, while a somber narrator described the last known photo of someone now gone. Noelle's eyes were closed. Her head tilted slightly to the side, like she'd either been sleeping or sedated. Her lipstick was smudged. One earring was missing. The background was too dark to make out much, but I swore I saw a checkered pattern behind her. Maybe a curtain? A blanket? Whoever took that photo wanted me to find it. That was the part that chilled me the most. This wasn't panic. This was precision. Someone left that Polaroid as a breadcrumb. A provocation. Or worse, a dare. I yanked open the passenger door with a shaky hand. The necklace was still there, coiled like a broken question mark on the seat. Up close, the red wasn't just a stain. It had soaked through part of the fabric. And the fingerprint? It was smeared, like someone had been trying to grab onto something. Or fight back. I took out my phone and started snapping photos of everything. The dash, the seat, the floor, the Polaroid. I didn't trust the cops, not yet. I knew too many stories where people like me got painted as unstable husbands with jealous tendencies. I had no idea what I was stepping into, but I sure as hell wasn't going to stumble through it blind. I called Meredith. She picked up instantly. Where are you? Have you talked to her? Do you know anything? Her voice was hoarse like she hadn't slept either. I told her where I was, what I'd found. At first, she didn't believe me. Then I sent her the photo. She went silent. I need to tell you something, she finally said. But you have to promise not to freak out. Meredith, she's missing. I think someone has her. I'm already freaking out. She hesitated. Then let it spill. She's been talking to him for months. Colton. Yes. I only found out last week. She swore it wasn't physical. She said it was just emotional. That she missed having someone who got her. Whatever that means. I told her she was playing with fire, but she said, Meredith's voice cracked. She said you were boring. Predictable. That you didn't chase her anymore. It hit like a sucker punch. I don't know why. I should have expected it. The signs had been there for months. Late-night texts, new passwords, gym memberships she never used. The reunion was just the tip of a very cold, very ugly iceberg. But still, something about hearing someone else say I wasn't enough, burned. I thanked Meredith and hung up. There was nothing left to say. That's when I noticed the second Polaroid. It was tucked into the glove box. Not taped. Just slid gently between the manual and an old toll receipt. This one wasn't of Noelle. It was of me. From behind. I was sitting at the reunion table, head down, eating my damn cheesecake, while my wife humiliated me in front of her ex and half the graduating class. Someone had been watching us. Someone had followed me there. Sat close enough to capture that exact moment. And they'd been planning this longer than I'd realized. I stumbled back from the car like it had shocked me, chest tight, vision tunneling. This wasn't just about jealousy. This wasn't about love, or infidelity, or humiliation. This was a setup. I raced home. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. Anything that felt out of place. Something Noelle might have hidden, or something I might have missed. I tore open drawers. Checked behind books. Scanned her cloud backups for anything odd. Notes, messages, voice memos. That's when I found a hidden folder in her iCloud labeled January. Inside were screenshots. Dozens. Of me. My texts. My DMs. My call logs. Even a photo of a receipt from a gas station where I bought allergy meds 2 weeks ago. I stared at the screen, heart thudding. Why was my wife keeping a digital dossier on me? And who was she sharing it with? Because those screenshots, they weren't just stored. They'd been forwarded. To one email address. And it wasn't hers. I sat in the dark, lit only by the pale glow of my laptop screen, while rain began tapping gently on the apartment windows like the soundtrack to a mistake I didn't know I'd made. The email she'd been forwarding everything to, the screenshots of my life, my texts, even photos of me doing absolutely nothing suspicious, was a string of numbers followed by a domain I didn't recognize, Secure Mail. Net. No name. No profile photo. Just numbers. At first, I thought maybe it was a backup account. Something for work. But Noelle worked in advertising. She didn't deal with encrypted mail. She barely even used a VPN. And besides, the domain wasn't something normal. It sounded like something military. Government. Or worse. Off the books. I Googled it. Nothing. DuckDuckGo. Dark web search aggregators. Reddit. Still nothing. Then I looked closer. In the subject line of one of the forwarded messages, she wrote, "He doesn't suspect a thing. I've documented everything like you asked." Everything went still. My ears began ringing. There was no context. No follow-up. Just that single line attached to a photo of me sitting on the couch watching a documentary, time-stamped from 3 weeks ago. Like I was some sort of case study. Like I wasn't her husband. I was her assignment. I leaned back slowly, trying to process the spiral I had just stepped into. Was she cheating on me? Or investigating me? I went back to her voicemail again, replaying the way she said, "I just wanted to feel like someone still saw me." Now I wondered if that someone had been watching both of us the whole time. But why? What the hell had I done? Just then, the door to our bedroom creaked open behind me. I jolted so hard I knocked the chair backward. But no one was there. I stood frozen for a second, staring down the hallway. Then slowly walked toward the door, heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape. I half expected to see Colton standing there. Or the police. Or nothing. Just the usual quiet. I was being paranoid. Maybe. But that didn't mean I was wrong. I locked the door behind me. Then I noticed something else. Noelle's safe. It had always been in the bottom of our closet, buried under winter coats we never used in this part of the country. She never opened it in front of me. Said it had sentimental stuff inside. Old photos. Her dad's letters. That kind of thing. I'd respected that. I didn't anymore. I dragged the safe out, set it on the carpet, and stared at the keypad. I didn't know the code. But I knew her. Her birthday? No. Our anniversary? Definitely not. I tried her dog's name from childhood. Click. The safe popped open. Inside wasn't anything sentimental. No letters. No photos. Just a black leather-bound notebook, a burner phone, and a manila folder labeled, "If I go missing, give to Detective Ames." I stared at that folder for a full minute before I touched it. My fingers felt like they were moving through fog. When I opened it, I was expecting something dramatic. A suicide note, maybe. A detailed confession. What I found was worse. Inside were 4 printed pages, each one meticulously formatted, bullet-pointed, documenting every concerning behavior I'd apparently exhibited over the past 8 months. It read like a report. April 3rd. He didn't come home until after 11 p.m. Said he was working late, but had no proof. May 16th. Found a purchase from a gas station out of town. No reason to be there. June 22nd. Raised his voice during an argument. Stood close. I felt unsafe. July 5th. Said he felt like I was hiding something. Possible projection. My name, Emery Davis, was written in all caps on the final page, under the words, "Subject may attempt to gaslight or turn defensive if exposed." I dropped the folder like it burned. That was when I realized, this entire time, I was being framed. This wasn't a woman who'd just made a mistake at a reunion. This was someone who'd been quietly building a case against me, documenting things, manipulating narratives, storing pieces of a puzzle she wanted to hand to someone else if she needed to disappear. And now she had disappeared, which meant, if I didn't figure out what was really going on, the next time my phone rang, it wouldn't be Meredith. It would be the police. And I'd be the prime suspect in the disappearance of my wife. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I just sat there in the living room, folder still open on the coffee table, notebook beside it like some cursed artifact, staring at the lies typed out in neat bullet points, and trying to find the version of Noelle who would do this. The version of her that kissed my forehead before work. The version that asked if I'd remembered to pick up oat milk. The version who once cried during a dog food commercial because he looked like Winston, the stray we'd almost adopted. That version of her was gone. Or maybe she never existed at all. By 6 a.m., I was back at my laptop, digging, researching, pulling at threads. I couldn't go to the police, not yet. Not like this. She'd built a case strong enough to make me look dangerous if I so much as raised my voice. I needed leverage, something she hadn't accounted for. So I started with Colton. I tried finding him before. His name was common enough, and without a last name, I kept hitting dead ends. But now I had something better, the burner phone from her safe. I powered it on. 2% battery. No passcode. 1 contact. CT. No messages. No calls. But in the photo gallery, there were 2 blurry selfies. One of Noelle in the passenger seat of a car, sunglasses on, hair tied back, smiling slightly. The other, taken the same day, showed her reflection in the window beside a man's arm. Tanned. Tattooed. Familiar. Zooming in, I saw the edge of a college ring. I Googled Colton plus and C plus college ring tattoo forearm and just kept digging. News articles. Alumni profiles. Old LinkedIn pages. Eventually, one thread led me to a private security firm called Orbridge Solutions, run by a Colton Travis. It was the same guy, older, clean-cut now. No social media, but his profile on the firm's site listed experience in private intelligence, sensitive domestic investigations, and a former contract with the Department of Defense. Private intelligence. Sensitive investigations. That's when the pieces started clicking in place. She wasn't having an affair with her ex. She was working with him. But why? Why me? Why build a narrative around me being controlling, distant, paranoid? Why forward emails and screenshots to an encrypted inbox? Why hide folders for police detectives and make it look like she was afraid of me? Unless she wasn't trying to disappear. She was trying to trap me. Not for love, not for lust, for leverage. I thought back to a night 2 months ago. She came home late, said her agency had landed a huge new client. They needed to lock things down legally because there were NDAs involved. She looked exhausted, said she had to go back out of town the next week. I didn't ask too many questions. Now I realized that entire month was when the photos started. The surveillance, the shift. I stood up and paced the room. My heartbeat wasn't just fast, it was tight. I wasn't being cheated on. I wasn't being ignored. I was being targeted, framed. She'd been using our marriage as a cover, and me as a fall guy for something. But what? What was she planning that required this level of manipulation? My phone buzzed again. Another blocked number. I didn't answer. Instead, I went to her work laptop, still on the desk, lid closed, plugged in like she never expected not to come back. I opened it. No password. Idiot. Inside her browser history, I found something strange. Dozens of visits to a private law forum. Threads about asset transfer, marital forfeiture laws, and something that made my stomach drop. Can surveillance evidence override spousal protections in a contested asset split? I didn't even know what that meant until I read further. She'd been building a legal foundation to take everything. The apartment, my retirement account, even Winston, the dog we never got. And according to one post she'd bookmarked, if she could prove I was emotionally volatile, she'd have grounds to make a preemptive removal of me from all shared assets, even before filing. This wasn't about love. This was about strategy. She was playing chess, and I'd been playing Jenga, hoping the tower didn't fall. But there was one more thing. In her downloads folder was a draft affidavit. Not official, but close. And in it, she claimed that she feared for her life after I grew distant and controlling, that I shut down emotionally and monitored her without consent. I was the one being watched. And now she was accusing me of watching her. I sank to the floor, adrenaline crashing into confusion. This woman, the one I married, the one who called me safe and sweet and boring, had quietly turned me into her villain, brick by brick, scene by scene, until there was no version of the story left that made me the victim. She'd rewritten the narrative, and if she didn't come back soon, there wouldn't be anyone left to tell the truth. I thought the worst part of all this would be betrayal. The kind that seeps through your life like black mold, slow, silent, suffocating. But it wasn't. The worst part was realizing I was never part of the plan at all. Just a placeholder. A tool. A character cast in a role I didn't audition for. Gullible husband number one. And by the time I understood the script, the credits had already started rolling. After finding the affidavit and reading how she painted me like a ticking time bomb, I knew I didn't have much time. If she stayed gone long enough, and if the wrong people found that folder in our safe, I'd be sitting across from detectives trying to prove I didn't do something I never even imagined. So I went digging again. Harder. Smarter. I took the burner phone to a guy I knew, someone I'd helped get into a new apartment after he got out of a nasty lease. Let's call him Darren. Tech savvy. Paranoid. Exactly who you want when you're holding a phone that could either clear your name or bury you. He pulled the SIM, ran metadata, scrubbed the deleted files. What he found made my skin crawl. She hadn't just been messaging Colton. She'd been recording me. Short audio files. 10 to 30 seconds each. Mostly when I didn't know she was even in the room. Me muttering to myself. Cursing after stubbing my toe. Complaining about work. One where I slammed a cabinet after she forgot to buy the one thing I'd asked for, dish soap. In isolation, they were meaningless. In context, hers, they painted a narrative. But there was one file that stood out. It was labeled proof_transfer. I watched as Darren opened the audio. It wasn't a recording of me. It was Noelle. And she wasn't scared. She was giddy. I'm almost there, she whispered, voice low but energized. The trust paperwork is drafted. Emery has no idea the second signature on the transfer is fake. Once it's approved, Colton's contact will make it disappear, legally. And I walk away clean. No divorce battle. No asset split. Just done. She laughed softly. And when he realizes what happened, it'll be too late. I'll already be gone. I stared at the screen like it might catch fire. Every breath felt like sand in my lungs. This wasn't a separation. This wasn't a woman breaking away from a marriage that stopped working. This was a heist. And I was the mark. All that talk of needing space, of feeling unseen, of wanting me to fight harder for her, none of it was real. It was scripted vulnerability, designed to keep me pacified while she moved money, property, everything out from under me. The trust transfer she mentioned? That's when it clicked. A few months back, we'd had a conversation about making things simpler. She said she wanted to consolidate accounts, so if anything ever happened, there wouldn't be probate issues or legal red tape. She said it was for me, that she was trying to protect me. She had me sign something electronic, said it was just a transfer of survivorship rights. I didn't read it. I trusted her. Now, Darren showed me a PDF buried in the burner's memory. It was the trust document, and it wasn't survivorship. It was ownership. She'd forged a second witness signature and transferred our joint assets into a private holding company under her name. Everything I had, everything I worked for, gone, already moved. And if she vanished permanently, or worse, framed me for making her vanish, it would all legally stay with her. Unless I exposed her first. But how? She had every angle covered. Affidavits, voice recordings, her disappearing act, and a background player in Colton who knew exactly how to manipulate systems. My phone buzzed again. Another blocked call. I let it ring. Then, a text came through. You're looking in the wrong places, Emery. She's not hiding. She's already gone. I froze. The timing was too perfect. Someone knew what I'd just learned. I asked Darren to trace the number. He tried. No dice. It was a masked relay, rerouted through multiple countries. Expensive. Professional. That's when I saw the second message come through. If you want answers, go to the place you first asked her to stay. My blood went cold. Not where I proposed. Not our wedding venue. Not the apartment. They meant the motel. A single-story roadside place with flickering neon and paper-thin walls. The kind of place we stayed in during a road trip when we were still broke and in love. I'd begged her not to leave me after a fight that night. I said I'd change. I said I'd do better. It was our lowest moment. And, stupidly, one of my most honest. I hadn't thought about that place in years. But now it felt like the only place I might still find the truth, or what was left of it. And I knew, deep in my chest, that whatever waited for me there would decide whether I survived this story at all. The motel looked exactly the same. Maybe a little more rust on the sign. Maybe a little more rot around the window frames. But the carpet still had that damp, chemical-clean smell, and the same clerk from years ago still sat behind the counter, watching a baseball game with the volume too loud. I told him I was meeting someone. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a key. Room 108. Last on the left. My hand shook as I slid the card into the lock. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe Noelle, waiting with a script and crocodile tears. Or maybe Colton, arms folded, ready to deliver one final monologue about how easily I'd been played. But when I opened the door, the only thing inside was a chair, a small folding table, and a manila envelope resting in the center. No people, just silence. I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. The envelope had my name on it. All caps. Emery. Inside were three things. First, a flash drive. Second, a notarized confession. Third, a single sheet of paper with one sentence. I thought I was smarter than you. I sat down, stunned. The confession was typed. Noelle's signature at the bottom. She admitted to the entire setup, from manipulating documentation, to forwarding doctored recordings, to partnering with Colton in a scheme to seize shared assets under false legal pretenses. She named the shell company. She even included a timeline, dates, transactions, emails. It wasn't just a written apology. It was a surrender. But the flash drive? That's what mattered most. I drove straight to Darren's, ignoring every missed call along the way. We plugged it in together. Inside were videos, hours of footage, hidden camera clips, conversations between Noelle and Colton, him coaching her on what to say, how to react, how to make me look unstable without ever laying a finger on me. There were even recordings of Colton talking to someone he called his client, hinting this wasn't just personal, that he'd done it before. But this time, he'd gone too far. Noelle must have realized it. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear. Maybe she finally understood that she was just a pawn in his game, too. But whatever made her do it, she backed out. Left it all behind in that motel room like a woman trying to escape a fire she helped start. I called Meredith, told her everything. Then I called my attorney. It didn't take long after that. The evidence went straight to the police. Charges were filed. Colton's firm got raided. Noel's assets were frozen, the trust reversed, and a warrant was issued for Colton's arrest. He ran, of course. Cowards like him always do. But the real twist? Noel turned herself in. I'll never forget what she said in court. I thought he was weak. I thought he'd fold like paper when I humiliated him. But he didn't. He just kept eating. The courtroom was silent. I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. Because the man she tried to turn into a villain? He wasn't broken. He was rebuilt. Now, months later, I live 3 states away. Quiet town. Small house. Different life. I've started fresh, legally, financially, emotionally. I even rescued a dog. Named him Winston. And sometimes, when I'm walking him through the neighborhood and the sun hits just right, I remember the reunion. I remember her words. You'll never even come close to my ex's level. She was right. Because I didn't come close. I surpassed it.